Hi kids, it's been a while since we've been together. I've missed very much. I hope you've had a wonderful early fall. The weather has been wonderful and I hope you've had plenty of time outside and gotten lots of exercise, although today is not very nice. Um, and I'm sure that you're either in school or at home doing um, video school. I hope you're doing well at school and that you like it this year. It's still a little different, but we'll get through it. So this year we talked about how we're discussing the people and courage and how they have faith in God and how God has given them courage to do some very difficult things. Well, today we're going to discuss Moses and a pretty difficult task that he had to do. So, do you remember the story about Moses? And not the early story, because we did that one when he was pulled out of the river, but the story of Moses and what he had to do to set the people free. Do you remember that part? Well, we'll touch on it a little bit, but what we really want to talk about is a special part of setting the people free. So, the Hebrew people lived in the land of Egypt for a very long time because they had to leave the land that they lived in because there was no food. And there was plenty of food down in Egypt. And they lived down there for a very long time and they multiplied. And the Pharaoh in Moses' time enslaved them and made them work very hard for practically nothing. So they had very little food. The children were hungry. They were crying to be set free. And God heard their cries. And he wanted to have his people go free. But he needed somebody to bring them out of Egypt. And he chose Moses. Now we know that Moses was raised by the Pharaoh's sister to be a part of Pharaoh's family. And then he found out that he was actually Hebrew. And he ran off because he had a scuffle with one of the Hebrew soldiers who was beating one of the Hebrew slaves. And he went far away and married, and then God talked to him and told him to go back and set the people free. So this is where we're at. So Moses went back to Egypt to set the people free. And Moses went to the Pharaoh and asked him to set the people free 9 times. And with each of the times that he went to the Pharaoh, there was a plague that was attached to it. So something happened. And they were pretty devastating. There was blood in the river, in all the water actually. There were insects, there was hail, there was all kinds of stuff. And still the Pharaoh wouldn't let the people go. So Moses went one last time. And he told the Pharaoh that this was going to be a really bad plague if he didn't let the people go. And still the Pharaoh said no. So Moses told the Hebrew people, I think we all remember this, to take a lamb and to put lamb's blood over the door so that the angel of death could pass over, which is where Passover came from, to pass over the homes of the Hebrew people, and that the firstborn of all the Egyptian people would end up being killed. But none of the Hebrew people with the blood over the doors would ever be touched. So in the morning, that's what happened. The Pharaoh called Moses to the temple and he said, okay, get out of town. So Moses rounded up all the Hebrew people and they left. So here is a picture of what happened. So here is Moses leading, isn't this a cool picture? Leading the people out of town, out of Egypt. There's a lot of people. So this is one picture of it. And here is another picture. Look how long that line is of all the people that were leaving Egypt. All the Hebrew people that were leaving Egypt. Lots and lots of people. So they walked out of Egypt. Now, they had God's help. They didn't know where they were going. So in the daytime, God's angels were in a cloud, helping them, leading them in this cloud, and see all the people behind them to help to direct them where they were going. They followed this cloud. And then at night, because they still walked, they had to keep going because they knew that if they didn't keep going, that eventually the Pharaoh was going to change his mind and the army would come after them. So then at night, they still kept on walking, but now it was fire that was leading them. See? God was helping them the whole time. But it still took courage for Moses to lead them to a place that he had no idea where they were going to go. And God gave him that courage. Now, and as we suspected, Pharaoh sent his army after them. As you can see, way back here, there's the dust cloud. And the people are yelling at Moses that they never should have left Egypt because they're going to get captured again. And here's Pharaoh's army going after them. So they kept walking anyway. Moses told the people, you have to keep going. God will be with us. And he proved that God was with them. So they got up close to the Red Sea, and still the people complained. Oh, we're going to drown. We're going to drown in the Red Sea. Moses said, now wait. God is with us. So he showed them that God was with them. As you can see, the sea is starting to part. See, there's ground right there, dry ground. Now, watch as what happens in the next frame. Here is all the Hebrew people walking on dry land across the Red Sea. There's a wall of water here and a wall of water there, but they're walking on dry land all across the Red Sea. and they get to the other side safe and sound. And behind them is the army of the Pharaoh. Now wonder what's going to happen to them. Well, look what happens to the army of the Pharaoh. They get caught. They get caught in the wall of water. And they can't get out of it. So, when all the Hebrew people get to the other side, Moses' sister Miriam does a dance, a happy dance, that the people were all saved and that they were never going to get captured by the Egyptian army because the army was no longer. It drowned in the Red Sea. And there's Moses, and he had the courage to stand up to Pharaoh with God's help, and they made it to safety with God's help. So, Moses stood up to Pharaoh for all that time, going up to him 9 times and being rejected, and then the 10th time, and finally the Pharaoh let them go. And look what happened. They got to leave and they got free. Isn't that great? With God's help. Now, I found this really cool craft I thought you might like. And here it is. Can you see it? I don't know if you can see it. I'm going to raise it up a little bit so you can see it. Look at that. Isn't that cool? Can you see the mountains of water and the people walking through in the one chariot? Well, I hope you like it. I'm going to show you the templates. So here are the templates. There's a template of a chariot and a template of Moses and some people. See the templates? I will send them as an attachment. Now what I did was, I always have these old file folders around. So what I did was, I first, what I'd really like you guys to do is I'd like for you to color these and make them really pretty. And then what I did was I glued the template to the file folder. And once the glue dried, then you can cut out each one of the figures and the feet that make them stand up. But the glue has to be really, really dry. Otherwise, it doesn't really work very well. Anyway, and then you come up with this. So here is a nice hard little figurine with its little feet. So those little the little rectangles, these little rectangles right here are the feet. So you cut those out, and then you cut these lines, and you stick the figurine in between the lines, and then you fold up each corner. And that makes, can you see? Can you see that I folded up? I don't know if you can see it. See how I folded up the corners? And that's how Moses gets to stand up. So I hope you enjoy that little craft, and I hope you have fun with it, and I hope you enjoyed the story. I've enjoyed our time together, and I can't wait to be together again. It will be nice if we could get together in person, but until we do, I enjoy being with you virtually. Stay well, and God bless. Have a great week. See you soon.